Grand Rising, everybody. How you doing? Well, how you doing? How you doing? Welcome to Deconstructing Christianity. I'm your coach, Coach Renz, and thank you guys for joining me today for our normal lives, which we have on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesdays. Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. And I will go ahead and announce this now as people are coming on, but we will not have a show tomorrow. I'll bring that back up again towards the end of the show, but we will not have a show tomorrow. I have a business engagement that I have to be at. So, no show tomorrow, but I'm glad that you guys are here today. But normally we go Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 7 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Mountain, 5 p.m. Pacific, and wherever else your time frames are. If you find me for the first time, then what we do here is that we deconstruct Christianity and reconstruct ourselves into our higher self, our higher form. So we do allow dissent within the ranks of conversation. As long as they are respectful, we will acknowledge those things. Today we have a pretty special show, in my opinion, even though all shows are special, but today is a special show that we're going to be discussing why do religions grow, why do they fail? And I want you to take something out of this one. This is something that you can look at deeper in your life. Business, family, community, a movement. All these things function as part of this conversation, can be relayed in some part or fashion to this. And we're going to go over those things today. But before we get started, and we usually get started right around the 5-minute or so mark. We're going to have a little bit of a financial talk at the 5-minute mark. So we just want to give some time for people to come in. I see Wrath and Tim are already here, making their comments. Great to see you guys. We're streaming both on Facebook and YouTube. And that's the best places to find me. Although an interesting thing, Facebook has been shedding numbers here recently. I don't know why. I've seen that in my Facebook, that the followers has gone down some, but it's all right. They're going up and going down at the same time, but a net loss. I know that Facebook is doing some shedding and changing their algorithms. And because of those changes in the algorithms, it is very important for this channel to continue to sustain itself and grow, that you like, share, comment, and most important, like, share, comment, share. That is what allows us to grow, because what we are doing here is growing a community. And because we're growing a community, I'm going to relate a lot of this conversation today to that. Now, I don't know if we're going to get through everything that I got on the list today. I don't know, because there are a number of things here. If I add them up, 14, that's 20. I wrote down 25 things today. So I'm not sure if we're going to get through all 25 today. If we don't get through all 25 today, then we will continue this conversation on Wednesday. So we also have StreamYard. They're doing a new beta testing on being able to allow everybody from each platform to be able to see the comments in the bottom right corner. I know that it's small, but hopefully you'll be able to still be able to read it and see it. That way everybody can see what everybody else is saying. Well, I look forward to a great conversation. Nonetheless, this is not, I know for those who know the length of the show goes for the length of my cigar, it will go longer. I got another one on the side, which my cigars are rolled by my wife, Angelina, the La Angelinas. You can go and send me an email at masteringyou10@gmail.com if you wanted to purchase cigars from us. They come in at a 5-pack at $7.50 each. Individually lower than 5 is $8 for each cigar plus shipping. So for the La Angelina, We have no. Let me bring it down. So this is the real cigar timer. This La Angelina. This is just what I was having beforehand because my wife made an amazing, amazing dinner tonight. And we just had to have a cigar right after that dinner because it was a fantastic dinner. She is an amazing chef. So we had to have a cigar before the show started. This is just finishing the dinner cigar. This is the show cigar, Tim. All right. So I'm gonna go through this 2 times. I'm gonna go through this right now. And I'm gonna go through this towards the end of the show. I want to thank everybody who is a member of the page on YouTube and a subscription holder on Facebook. I look forward to us growing the membership on both as a membership and a subscription. There are more videos that are produced that are members only. I have to admit, a video I did for members only, a video I did that subscription holders on Facebook got, the YouTube members couldn't get it because YouTube had a copyright infringement on that video, and I couldn't even share it to the private membership. But I'm going to figure out a way to redo that videos for the membership so that they can have that without the copyright infringement that was on it. That was a video that was dealing with that video delved deeper into the how religion has created that issue in South Africa, where they had whites only villages and towns, and even in 1998 after apartheid was over, and how those people believe that their religion is what allows for them to have that type of separation and their mentality of superiority. So let me go ahead and thank Raph for donating a membership. So if you're not a member on YouTube, you want to get that free 1-month membership. Raph has donated a membership. I don't know exactly even know how that works as far as how people grab it, but it's there. So before we get started, I want to talk about something that is near and dear to my heart. So on this upcoming Sunday, June 1st at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So that will be 12 p.m. Central Time. So that's 1 p.m. Eastern Standard, 12 p.m. Central, 10 Mountain, and 9 Pacific. We're going to have a seminar. Now, I want to let you know that even if you can't make this seminar, you can still sign up. The link is in the description of this video. You can still sign up for this seminar. If you are unable to make it for whatever reason, you will be able to still have access to the seminar even when it's over. Yes, you won't get any personal questions asked and answered, but at least you'll be able to get this information and you'll be able to get the additional things that come with this seminar. So on June 1st, I am doing a Financial on Fire seminar, Stop, Drop, and Roll. In this seminar, what I'm going to demonstrate to you is how you can fix your finances if you are in a situation where your finances have been ruling you. If you are in a good financial situation, how you can utilize those finances to be able to actually create wealth. And if you have good credit, how we can make it better. If you have great credit, how you can make it better. If you have bad credit, how you can go through a process of restoration. And if you're old enough, you have been up and down with your finances before. So some of the things that we're going to cover is some of the misnomers that people have in their mindset. When we look at these statistics, what we see is that 45% of the top 10% are the highest earners in the country. 41.2% are in the middle, right? And then 13.3% are the least earners at the bottom. But the interesting comparison is that 45.5% owns 70% of the wealth in America, whereas that 41% only owns 27% of the wealth, and that 13.3% own almost a minuscule number of the wealth in America, literally only owning about 1%. 1%, 1.5% of wealth in America is owned by the bottom 50%. So here's the thing. There's a difference between high income earners and the wealthy. A difference. There are many high income earners who are not wealthy. And most of the middle of the road people are not controlling hardly any of the wealth at all. And the bottom 50%, the bottom, are controlling zero wealth. The bottom 50% are controlling virtually zero wealth. When you see that bottom 50%, you know, when you go into a dilapidated neighborhood and there's that one person who owns their house, that is their wealth. And I'm going to teach you how you determine what is income and what is wealth. Wealth is often measured by how much money you keep, but also it is measured by how much of your money is working for you. And then it is also based on your net worth, And many people don't know how to calculate their net worth, but that's something that we'll go through during this seminar, and just one of the things that we're going to talk about during Financially on Fire. Now, the credit piece is going to be so extensive. The credit piece is so extensive that we're going to do a basic understanding of credit. And then I'm going to email you, everyone who participates, I'm going to email you my financial alchemy, credit restoration, and credit health DIY guide, because that booklet itself would take all day just to go through that booklet and everything that is in that booklet. You're talking 8 hours if we solely just went through that booklet. But so that you'll have it with you at all times and be able to have all the different types of letters and things that you can do in order to restore your credit or even make your credit better, you will have that as a copy. Now, I wrote this book over a decade ago, and every year I update it with additional information or if information has changed. So if you would like to participate in this seminar of Financially on Fire, go to the description and sign up for the seminar. Go to the description and sign up for the seminar. Before we get to the business, Stephanie, you know what I'm about to ask you, Stephanie. You was on the show with us last Wednesday. We had an impromptu coaching session with Stephanie. Did you create your pages, Stephanie? Because if you didn't, you owe me $100. Did you create your page, Stephanie? We talked about with Stephanie how she can utilize her talents to be able to set herself up to be able to move out of this country, to become a digital nomad. I started something. And don't give me that I started something. What did you start? I don't want to have to take $100 from you now. That was the stick. The stick was $100. You made a pledge online to a bunch of people, with a bunch of people as witnesses, about 70 witnesses. What did you start? What did you start? We need the update. Not that I started something. We need details. You've often heard the term, the devil is in the details. No. To utilize the spiritual terms, heaven is in the detail. Nirvana is in the details. These comments are funny to me. Are you running an atheist cult? You ask for more donations than a pastor. At what point did I ask for a donation? At what point did I ask for a donation? I've never asked for a donation. You see, this is how they try to come and they tell their lies and think that people are supposed to accept the lies that they tell. I never asked for a donation. I'm offering a class for people to study, right? A class for people for us to get our finances in a better situation. Something that the church never does for you. Always asking you to pray for it, telling you that you got to tithe in order for your finances to increase. Whereas I'm offering a class that's going to show you exactly how to increase your finances, how to increase your net worth, how to increase and grow your wealth. This is the class, but I guess you're classless in the fact that you can't understand that, and so you must throw out false evidence, false information. When I think the members and the subscription holders, they receive additional videos. So there is a gain that is received, a transaction that happens. But the classlessness of you demonstrates that all you can do is throw out your veiled threats. But it is to be expected. So what he's talking about is this thing is mirrored. Is that right there? The little Kabbalic tree. I found that one interesting about Kabbalah because as a person who deconstructed from Christianity and religion, did I go through the process of studying a whole bunch of other religions and other aspects of religion? Most certainly. Yeah. And I utilized the information from there that I wanted, that helped me through my deconstruction. But it is not proof of Judaism at all. Yeah. Asking God to pray, ask God, pray about it, hope. It's a bunch of BS because that's all it is. Instead of telling your church members that if the difference is between you paying your tithe and you keeping the rent, you keeping the lights, you keeping the water, you buying some food for your family, keep that money. If the difference is paying the 10% or putting that 10% into your investment so that you can actually retire and be able to not eat cat food. Now the church is not going to tell you that. They're not going to tell you that how you should invest your money. They're not going to tell you how you should grow your money. They're not going to tell you about how to fix your credit. Oh, they may have a little something once a year, but they ask for that money every week. Every week. So let's get to the subject matter. Now, I cannot take credit for the first part of today's conversation. Now, this may be the whole conversation today. I don't know. It may be the whole conversation because, like I said, I wrote down 25 points, but the first 13 points that I wrote down did not come from me. I did not sit here and contemplate and come up with the first 13 points myself, right? These first 13 points where we're going to talk about why religions grow and fail were not from my own mind. But there's a page that I follow. This page was created by Thomas Westbrook. Thomas Westbrook is a YouTuber for the page The Holy Kool-Aid. I wanted some of his information to be up there so that you guys can see it, so you also see his face. You know, sometimes he uses animation in his videos, but the Holy Kool-Aid is one of the channels that I do follow. I find his content to be excellent. I find his content to be on point and to be backed up by facts. And when you look at his page, he is someone who was born Christian in a Muslim country. He still was Christian because his family was Christian. And then he started studying and questioning everything while he was at Texas A&M. And in 2015, he started his YouTube channel called The Holy Kool-Aid. He has I don't know how many followers he has. I know he has way the hell more than I do. I can tell you that. Actually, I'm very curious right now how many followers that he has on his page. So he has 325,000 followers. So he got about 300,000 more followers, just under 300,000 more followers than I do. He is one of the premier deconstructing pages that is out there, and his information is impeccable. Impeccable. His video quality is great. I don't know if he's doing all the editing or he's hired people who edit, but he has a great page. No? Okay. Is everybody hearing me? Good. Hearing me well. Yes, he called it the Holy Kool-Aid, playing off of Jim Jones and the Kool-Aid concoction that he used. Now we're going to talk about Jim Jones, and this is why him doing the Holy Kool-Aid was him doing it was great. So I wanted to give credit. That's one of the purposes of me putting this on here, is that I wanted to give credit. Thank you, everybody. Let me know the sound is good. I wanted to give credit for at least the first 13 points that we're going to talk about tonight and possibly Wednesday, because it is he who actually made a video yesterday, and he went through these 13 points. Now, he went through them relatively quickly. The video is only about 15 minutes long, and he went through them very quickly, but they were still very incredibly concise. So tonight we're going to go through those, plus, if we can, an additional information and additional 12 points that I wrote down myself. And his video was about why religions fail. And even though it was titled Why Religions Fail, the video was really more about why other religions have been able to sustain themselves, why Christianity is still around, why Hinduism is still around but hurting, why is Islam still around, why are all these religions still around? And through those 13 points, he made a great case for it. But of course, the way that my mind works, I also see there is marketing potential that you can use for yourself, for business, for your life. If you're starting a movement, whatever it is that you want to do, you can see these same things and how they happen in movements. Now, you don't have to have all 13 in order to create a movement. I would hope that you don't use most of them. Well, some of them don't use, but we're going to go through them. I want you to understand that this is the main thing about it, and the 13th point really hits home on that. So I'm going to repeat this when I get to the 13th point, is that none of these religions has spread through truth. None of them not one has spread because it was brought about through truth. We know that every religion that man has ever created has no bearing in truth. We know that every religion that man has created are telling stories about things that happened when no one was there to witness anything. There are no eyewitnesses to Exodus. There are no eyewitnesses to the flood. There's no eyewitnesses to Jesus. There's no eyewitnesses to Muhammad. There's no eyewitnesses to Krishna or Brahma or Oshun. There's no eyewitness to Quetzalcoatl. There's no eyewitness to any deity that anybody ever claimed existed. The closest eyewitness that you'll get to anything is when man just worshiped the sun, when man just worshiped the mountain, when man worshiped a river, when man worshiped the rain. They saw a cloud, they knew it was a storm, it was raining. They saw the sun rise, they saw the moon rise, and they gave worship to the object itself. It is then later that man decided that we're going to apply animals to it. And then after that, man decided it was going to apply deity. And after man applied deity to it, then there came people who said that they came from that deity, and they applied those stories by which no one was there to witness Gilgamesh. No one witnessed Enki and Enlil. And then came what we have mostly today, which is people who claim to speak at the behest of the one who came from the deity, or who was there with the deity, or the deity itself. So there is absolutely no eyewitnesses to any religion that has ever been created by man, worshipped by man. And we'll get deeper into what that all means. But know that none of these have came about because of truth. And we're going to discover what is it that makes these religions last? What is it that gives them life so that people continue to worship them? How can a person in today's world, the intelligence of a person, the fact that they still worship any of the major religions and most of the minors, is an amazing thing. It's an amazing thing to me. And the reason why we may not get through it all today, because I will be paying attention to you guys' comment and try to add your comments. And so that's why I don't know if we can get through all 25 points today. But Patel makes a good point. The reason grow and fail is the same why government grows and fails, but not because of imperfect humans are running it, but it's what those humans do in their philosophies and how they move the people like sheep. It has nothing to do with the imperfection of man. Because if man was made in the image of God and man was imperfect from the very beginning, then that God itself was imperfect. Oh man, we was in church, somebody be like, say it again, Pastor. If man was made in the image of God and man is imperfect, then therefore God is imperfect. And every religion shows an imperfect God, ruled by jealousy, ruled by anger, gets into petty quibbles and fights. So, without further ado, let's start with the first one. Every religion grows. And to me, these first 13 are really talking about how these religions have sustained themselves. This is the survival tactics of these religions. This is how they do it. The first one is the encouragement to procreate. Didn't think that was going to be the first one, did y'all? But yes, the encouragement to procreate is one of the first survival tactics of every religion. Without procreation, religions will die. When you look at Paul and his writings, when he said that he would want everybody to stay celibate, stay unmarried, like he was, if Christians would have followed that tenet, Christianity would have died. Without procreation, no religion can maintain itself. He mentioned a religion and the Shakers. Yes, there is a religion that was called the Shakers in America or in Europe that had thousands of members at one point. But they encouraged their members not to procreate. And now there are only about 5 or 10 Shakers in the world, 5 or 10 people who still believe in this religion. Without procreation, no religion can sustain itself. There was a church in Hawaii, and I met 2 of their congregants. I worked with one of the members of their congregation. He was a Marine. He was stationed with me in Headquarters Marine Forces Europe. And what that church taught is that the only reason you should have sex is to have a child. So they encourage procreation, but with strictness towards your sex, that only to have children is what sex is for. Now, the Bible starts out very early and tells man to procreate. In Genesis chapter 1, I believe it's verse 26, but on the 6th day, he created man, male and female, and told them to be fruitful and multiply. And then take dominion over the earth, over the birds of the sea. The birds of the air, the fish of the sea, the animals on the land. Procreation has always been a methodology for surviving of a religion. You look at religions like the Mormons, when they first started, the way to make that religion grow, polygamy. They went away from Most of the Christianity of that day, which followed the Greco-Roman style of Christianity, and in order to grow Mormonism, he told them that procreate. We got one man. That one man need to have multiple wives. Now, I, for one, am not against polygamy. I think polygamy is a wonderful institution. But religion has used polygamy in order to keep the religion going. Abraham has Ishmael with Hagar and has Isaac with his wife, with Sarah. He has two wives, a slave wife, and then he has his Hebrew wife. Truly, his Canaanite wife, his Sumerian wife. You got Jacob has two regular wives, Rachel and Leah, and then have two slave wives, Bilhah, and I always forget the other wife's name. That poor lady, I always forget her name. But the 12 tribes of Israel do not come from Rachel and Leah, his two regularly worked for, made a deal with their dad wives, but through the slave wives who were the handmaids of Rachel and Leah, who were forced to have sex with Jacob in order for them to produce more children, and he produced 12 children. Solomon has 300 wives and 700 concubines. Oftentimes at his level, those wives were for political reasons, but it is still the idea of procreating in order to generate more and more people. This is why groups like the Catholics forbade contraceptives, no condoms, no morning after pills, no birth control, because they know that they need to keep the babies coming. Whereas other religions who have restricted those numbers, the religion ultimately will start to dwindle in number because there's not enough children being born into the religion, which brings us to number 2. His number 2 statement of churches and religions being able to survive. And let me put it down to even the churches. I was a member when I was a chairman of the deacon board, the average age at that church was 55. The overwhelming majority of the people at that church were over the age of 50. They were so strict that young couples didn't want to stay at that church. They didn't want to be at that church. Now, when we had Reverend Dillon when I was 15, Reverend Dillon used to get teenagers there. He had so many young adults there that the church thrived. The church was growing, right? The church grew so much that we had a building fund and actually built the damn building. But then when the old people started taking over again, because they didn't like that new youth movement, the church dwindled and kept dwindling, and it dwindled and dwindled and dwindled. And now you go inside that church and on any Sunday, and they only got about 10, 15 people in there. When once it used to be about 150 people in that church, now there's only about 10 people in that church. And this is because the old people are just there. They don't have any young blood. There's no procreation going on. These 50 and above are not having children. So the church dies. So you have probably seen individual churches where their numbers have dwindled. And if it is a church filled with old people, that church is going to die. This is the same with religion. So to guard against that, no contraception, no contraceptives, no condoms, get more children, birth more children, which now brings us to point number 2. Children indoctrination. Children indoctrination. The Bible tells Christians that, I believe it's in Deuteronomy. It might be in Deuteronomy. I'm not exactly sure where it is, but it says to teach your children so that when they get older, they will not depart. That you want your children to believe in this. Without them, before they get old enough to be able to think for themselves, you want them fully engrossed, fully believing in this religion. You want them to think that God is necessary, that this God is real. You've seen plenty of children in churches acting out the parts that the pastor acts out, dancing in the church, singing, yelling, wailing, acting out as if they have the Holy Spirit. In Islam, they make the children memorize, if not the entire Quran, but certain aspects of the Quran have to be memorized before the child can even read well. They have to memorize this book. Catholicism sends them through the catechisms, or catechism, whatever it is, catechism. In Judaism, they make the bar mitzvah an incredibly important thing. So a thing of belonging, and we're going to come back to a couple of things. A couple of things do more than one aspect of this survival techniques that they use to maintain their religion. And I remember seeing a story about a decade or so ago about a young Indian child. She had memorized all the books, and she was only about 5 years old. She had no idea what she had memorized. She could not break this stuff down. But getting the children early into the belief, the same way they do with Santa Claus. And this is going to demonstrate to you, in going through this, you're going to see how things like Santa Claus and Tooth Fairy and all these other things that adults still participate in, you're going to see why they do it. You're going to see why they do it. Now it's time for the cigar that is the show length cigar. Mastering You, the number 10 at gmail.com. Mastering You 10 at gmail.com to order your La Angelinas. So getting children caught up into the belief of this God, of whatever God that you believe in, that the parents believe in, is an important way, because we're going to see how later on in one of the other points that if you do not get them caught up as a child, some of the other methods and ability and techniques won't work. So this is why I believe that he put these two as the first two, because these are the two most important. Have the baby and train the baby up to believe in these religions, so that the other things that are listed, some of these other aspects of this religion, will work on them. You need that. Really, this first 5 really puts the child in it where it's almost inescapable for them. So the manipulation has to start at a very young age. And even that manipulation starts without the parents. You grew up in a society where you're surrounded by churches or mosques or temples. And even if your parents are not devout, it enters your psyche, even at that young age. Like I did that. So you blow on it when you got the flame, and you may be able to keep the flame. So going to the third point, because we're going to jump back and forth into some of these. Going into the third point that the Holy Kool-Aid brought up is proselytism or missionary work. Was the 2. This is basically marketing for the church. This is one of the biggest marketing of the church. Why do Jehovah's Witnesses come around and knock on your door? Is it because they really want to tell you a truth? Why do the Mormons send teenagers out for a year of missionary work? Is it because they really want to tell you a truth? Why do they go out to countries that are poor and build wells for them, or structures or houses or hospitals? Is it really to tell the truth? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. It has absolutely nothing to do with them telling the truth. The Bible is the number one, the Bible is claimed to be the number one book sold every year. Every year, number one book sold. The only problem with that is when you look into it at a deeper level, the only reason it's the number one book sold is because so many churches purchase these books to be given away for free to people. So people who are all, so most of these books are already they're being purchased by church organizations so that when they go on missionary work, when they go out proselytizing, that they can give the Bible away free to people. The Bible is not the number one purchased book because people who don't believe in the Bible are going out there and buying the Bible, or uh, they had a dream or a vision or something stirred inside of them to make them go and buy this Bible. No, the reason why the Bible is the number one sold book is because organizations, Christian organizations, are buying Bibles to give out free. So it's recruitment. Recruitment. Do you know how Red Bull got big? 1998, Red Bull got big. Well, it started in 97. From in 97 through all the way through 98. If you was around in the mid 90s and before and earlier, there was no such thing as Red Bull. What did Red Bull do? Red Bull hired a whole bunch of young girls, good-looking young girls with good bodies, and they drove around giving out Red Bulls for free. Yep, they even have the Bibles free in the hotels. But they go out giving it out for free. How do you get somebody hooked on a drug? You give them the first one free. How do you get men to come to a bar? You have ladies' nights where the first drink for the ladies is free. Entrance to the club is free for the ladies. If the ladies are there, the men will follow. This same technique is used by the religions in missionary work. Go give out these free Bibles. Let's make sure that we're giving Bibles out to people who have never heard of it. And we're going to combine that with some other techniques that we're going to talk about later. But we go out and we do this. Let's go and dig a well for them so that they feel indebted to us. We dug the well, so now they're indebted to us. They need to listen to us when we talk about Jesus. What made us able to come out here and dig this well for you? Was it because of Jesus? No. It was because of the money that the church has. That's the only reason, the only way is through that method. Paul, in his writings, talk about make sure you take care of Timothy when he come there. Make sure you got the money to be able to afford him to go to the next spot and the next spot and the next spot. Make sure that when Paul goes to there, he got money for the next spot and the next spot. The Jesus movement would have never made it. Never made it if he didn't feed them people that two-piece fish sandwich. It would have never made it, never survived. It would have never survived if he didn't have people with him who had money. Martha had money. Peter had a whole fleet of ships. He wasn't just some regular fisherman. Peter had a bunch of ships. Think about the story. He told Peter where to fish. Peter went out there and they fished. It was so many fish that he had to call his other boats out there. A lot of people don't catch that part. Peter wasn't broke. Judas was an accountant, and Matthew was an accountant. Now, I don't know about y'all. I ain't got to that point where I need two accountants. So all that missionary work, all that proselytizing, is just merely advertisement. It's advertising. And the proselytizing is just like commercial. All that Red Bull does all these events that don't make them no money at the event, but it's all just marketing. And all that proselytizing, them Jehovah's Witnesses knocking on your door, they keep doing it because it works. Now they stand around, they got their little stands by the bus stops. They got their stands in the park because it works, because people are curious. The Hebrew Israelites stand on the corner and they try to catch these young men who are feel disassociated in society, and they grow their ranks that way. These street corner pastors, it works. That's why they keep doing it. And people are sheep. Every goddamn weekend I see the Hebrew Israelites out there. Every weekend I see the street pastor out there. Every weekend they're out there. These people wouldn't be out here if it wasn't real. These people wouldn't be out here unless there was some benefit to it. And if I see other people doing it, then I need to do it too. I need to do it. And they keep doing it. When I first got into business, they used to say that you got to touch a person 7 times in order to get them to buy your product. Now that number has went up to about 27 times you got to touch a person before they buy your product, because there's so much information out there. There's so many copycats. There's so much. We're inundated with marketing of every business, the same type of business. But they know that it's a numbers game. You got to be out there. You got to touch them. So these religions, they survive by doing it. Now, look at the counter of that. You don't see the Jewish religion out there proselytizing, right? No. So you don't see the growth in Judaism. Judaism is nowhere near the numbers of Islam and Christianity. Nowhere near the numbers. Now, Islam has other reasons. Islam is growing faster than Christianity because of birth rate, because of procreation. They're encouraging birth. Muslims tend to have 3 children per family, where Christians are more around the 1.5, 1.6. So birth rate is causing Islam to grow, plus some of the other things we're going to talk about is causing Islam to be able to maintain itself. And with birth rights and the other things that they're doing, that allows for it to grow. Another reason, more recently, Islam has been growing. Everybody's running to Dubai. Everybody want to go to Qatar. Everybody want to go to these countries that are more liberal and see how that wealth is going around, and they're getting caught up because it's all about what they're interested in. But the religions that are not proselytizing, the religions that are not promoting birth rates, they're not as big. They're not as big. Hollywood got caught up into Buddhism and Eastern religions. And even now you go and you see Buddhist temples all around your city. Before, you never really saw them. Now you have monks out there on the streets trying to give you beads for a donation. And they got me one time. Actually, it was when we was visiting San Antonio. Nice little monk had a nice bead I liked, gave me a donation. So the Eastern religions have maintained their growth. Buddhism is growing. Hinduism is balancing. People getting into yoga and all that, but that actually touches one of the other points later on. But as far as proselytizing, you're starting to see these Buddhist monks out there. They're not telling you about Buddhism. They just get you to get that bead. It's a nice subtle way of getting at you. I talked about hyperthiodosis in other videos, not as a primary though, but that's a good idea. But not today. Yes, these are the survival tactics. This is why these religions are still here. Scientology has grown tremendously because of their marketing, utilizing Hollywood actors and singers and whatnot, putting all that money out there, building these big ass buildings. grows Scientology. So getting out there with missionary and proselytizing, that's number 3. Number 4. So when you get somebody born into a religion, you taught them that religion. They started believing this religion from birth. You proselytize into these people. And what is the main thing that you're telling them and these missionaries? And that is number 4, the fear of hell, the fear of some type of retribution. That fear of something creates a situation where people stay in religion. Even with reincarnation in Hinduism, how do they create the fear? They tell you, if you don't satisfy your dharma, you're gonna come back as a lower caste. You were middle class and you fucked around and found out, and you're gonna come back poor. You're gonna come back living in squalor. So they scare them with a horrible reincarnation. Buddhism does it to a certain degree as well. You will come back as a caterpillar or a rat. But nobody does it better than Islam and Christianity. Even in the Kemetic science, it wasn't so much that you come that in the afterlife, it was the fear was going into total darkness. The fear was total destruction, ceasing to exist. Other than that, you can go and live in the field of reeds with Osiris, and live a wonderful life. If you was a farmer, you still be a farmer, just a farmer in heaven. But it is that fear of hell. When Christianity took the ideas of the Greeks with Hades, took the ideas of the underworld from other religions as well, and made it where there was nothing but pain and suffering if you don't believe this religion. And the Abrahamics all picked up on the same. But soon after that, Judaism went from not having a hell to certain sects of Judaism now having a hell. It used to be in Judaism that you just died and that was it. But now, there is somewhat of a Sheol for Judaism, because the Islam and Christianity did so well with hell. If you took hell out of the equation, your religion is going to suffer. If you take you returning back and living in poverty out of the equation, your religion is going to suffer. Your group is not going to survive. So there has to be a stick involved. And telling people that if they don't believe in this Jesus, if you're not part of this exclusive club, that you will burn forever in a lake of fire, scared people shitless. And they rather not. And then if you grew up in this religion, you were born into this religion, and you start to think critically, well, you go into cognitive dissonance very quick, because you do not want to go to hell. That fear. So, and I get Boondock, heaven it's an allegorical reference. That's how you made it. There is no dependent upon the context. The context of the Bible is you either believe in Jesus or you get thrown into the lake of fire and you're tormented forever. The context of the Quran, you either believe in Allah or you go to Islamic hell for a certain amount of time where you are in pain, you're burned every day, skin grows back and you burn again. There is no, the Bible, the Quran is not talking about anything that's allegorical when it comes to that. They mean it literally. That's why they can't get out of it. Is that they've got to have you believing in this hell in order to keep you trapped in it. And when you don't believe in it, they talk about it so much. Do you believe in God? Well, no. Don't you want your soul to be saved? Jesus came and died for our salvation so that your soul can be saved. Saved from what? Saved from an eternal torment. That is the whole thing. Spookism. Exactly, Rab. Nothing but spookism to keep you caught and trapped in that religion. Now, number 5 from the Holy Kool-Aid is threats of ostracism. Now, there are many religions who do this, but I think, and there are many sects of religion who do this at a far greater level than regular old Christianity. You know, most of us, we walked away from Christianity. We've had to deal with family members, church members, people befriending, people ending friendships and things of that nature, but being ostracized from community. But nobody does it better than like your Jehovah's Witnesses. Nobody does it better than your Mormons, your Seventh-day Adventists. Walk away from those religions and be determined, and they determine that you're an apostate. It's one thing to have your friends turn their back on you. It's one thing to just be kind of kicked around a little bit. But one of the big powers of the Catholic Church was to kick you out of the church itself. Excommunication. There were times where the Pope excommunicated entire cities because of the leadership wouldn't come under their control. And the people rebelled against their leadership because of it. But being ostracized and that fear of it, I know people who desire to walk away from the church, but they can't do it because their families would no longer be a part of their life. When your mothers and your fathers turn their back on you because of a religion, that such a stronghold. I'm not gonna lie to you. One of the things that made me stick with Christianity for as long as I did, I often say, is because I really wanted it to be true. But one of the reasons, there's always a why. One of my whys was because I felt the ostracism from me asking questions. When your family get kicked out of churches and pastors tell your grandmother, don't bring him back, that level of being ostracized is hurtful. When you go to school and people are talking about the fact that your family got kicked out of the church, or you individually got kicked out of the church, but then your family just decided to leave, that plays on your mind when you're 12 years old, 13 years old. It worries you, it bothers you. So that fear of being ostracized causes a lot of people to stay in these churches. Now, this is one of the reasons why Buddhism doesn't grow as fast as it could grow. In the Buddhist tradition, if you go to the temple, you want to do your 3 years in a temple, but you get about a year in and you're like, I'm not ready for this. You walk away. They just tell you, okay, you're just not ready. They don't ostracize you. They just say you're not ready. With doors be open when you come back. There's no stick in walking away from Buddhism. There's no stick in it. If they added the stick, less people will walk away from Buddhism. Walk away from Islam, and especially if you are in an Islamic community or you are in an Islamic country, you walk away from it, your entire life is thrown off. Entire life. I don't know if the rule is still there, but when I was in Dubai in the early 90s, if a couple were to get married and you were Muslim, then the king or prince, whomever, will give you $10,000 and a house. But if you wasn't Muslim, you don't get the $10,000 in the house. If you walk away from Islam, you usually would lose your job. You know, last week we had Kevin Wesley on here. Part of his story is the fact that when he walked away from the church he belonged to and walked away from Christianity in the small town that he was in, he lost his job. He lost his job. The entire community ostracized him. So when you got that level of brainwashing going on, it's hard. People don't want to do that. One of the ways that Christianity gained control of Haiti, if you remember the story of Haiti from the rebellion of 1804, when they rebelled in 1804 and took their country back, they went back to their orishas. Now, of course, we all know the financial pressures that they then put on Haiti. But the other thing that they did is that the Catholic Church came into Haiti. They were already there, but they came back into Haiti. And they built hospitals and they built schools. But they told the people that in order to come to our hospital, in order to go to our school, you have to be Catholic. So slowly over time, Haiti went away from their orishas and went back to Jesus. The very religion they put down because it oppressed them, the very thing that got them inspired, their orishas, to fight and gain independence of their country, they went back to, because if you want to go to the hospital and you're sick and you're dying, well, the best hospital is the Catholic hospital, but I got to be Catholic. If I want to go to school so that I can get an education and get a better job, well, the best school is the Catholic school. And so over time, they then took back over the government. And then at that point, once they took back over the government, oh, if you're not Catholic, you're not Christian, you're not going to be a part of the government. They took it back. They continued to fight the war against Haiti financially and then mentally by utilizing health and your ability to take care of your family financially. And they won Haiti back. They won it back. This is how ostracizing someone, how it's an effective tool, by giving people that fear of being separated from the group. Now, this fear is starting to become less and less, and mainly because the internet has allowed for people to find groups, to be connected, to be able to grow. Yep, the movie Book of Eli describes and demonstrates how religion is used to control people's mind. Exactly, yeah. To me, that's what that movie is about. So the sixth thing is that they discourage questioning and critical thinking. Because the real way that you start to realize that this religion is false, that what they're telling you is wrong, is the fact that if you start to question the literature that they are, or the dogma that they're teaching you, the doctrines, and most of the things that people are learning in churches is doctrine. Then if you start to question that, start critically thinking, no, they discourage it. You don't question the Bible. You don't question God's words. If you don't understand it, it's because you don't have the Holy Spirit. If you don't understand it in the way that the doctrine has been developed over these centuries, it's because you're reading it through your own understanding. You're leaning towards your own understanding. You're not understanding it the way that God intended for it to be understood. Even though if you do any history on any of these religions, you will see that the religions have constantly changed. Constantly changed. There was a time frame where there was no you catching the Holy Spirit. Only the priest, the bishops, the cardinals, the Pope can catch the Holy Spirit. You couldn't catch a Holy Spirit. Catching the Holy Spirit is a late 19th century creation. And of course, they find some Bible stuff that they can back that up with the day of Pentecost. But before that, you were a witch or a demon or something if you acted out the way people act in church. If you took somebody from the 1600s and you planted them in a church today, especially an evangelical or the Church of Christ or Baptist church in the South, they would declare that this church is filled with demons. And that the understanding that you have is devil teaching, devil talk. So they discourage critical thinking and you asking questions. If you ask the question, how can two bats, have survived on Noah's Ark when bats eat about 1,000 insects a day? And there's no mentioning of insects on the ark, but just two bats would eat 2,000 insects a day. The bats would starve if they're on there for a year. There wasn't enough food for 2 elephants, even if they were baby elephants when he first started. How did the elephants survive? It doesn't work. How can a 500-year-old man and his 3 sons who were over 100 years old build a boat that when it was recreated in Kentucky, it took a legion of people with modern day techniques to be able to rebuild that boat and look at what it took. Look at what they had to do. You start asking those questions and you'll find yourselves ostracized from the church. So they discourage you from asking questions. Don't lean onto your own understanding. Lean onto the understanding of the pastor, who's leaning onto the understanding of previous pastors, and so on and so forth, who are leaning on doctrines that was written by people who had no contact with the so-called creator of this religion. So whose understanding are you leaning on? The Holy Ghost told you? Was it the Holy Ghost that created the separation of the Baptists and said that you have to be submerged, that you can't be that, and that you can't go to heaven without being baptized? You're not a true Christian without being baptized. Was it the Holy Spirit that started the Baptists? Was it the Holy Spirit that came to Ellen G. White and told her that the world would end before she died, and then that only the keepers of the Sabbath were going to be able to go to heaven? But when she died and the end hadn't came, was it the Holy Spirit that then came in and said, well, she got it wrong. We told her, but she got it wrong. And so we're going to revise it. The same thing with the Jehovah's Witness. Oh, once the 144,000 have been sealed. Sorry about that. Once the 144,000 been sealed, then the end will come. Oh, there's 144,000 of us. The end hadn't been sealed. The end hadn't happened, rather. No, can't do it. So they discourage you from questioning, and they write new understandings when their prophecies come out to be false. People buy into it. Why are they still buying into it? Fear of being ostracized, fear of hell. Those two things. Once they get you as a child, those two things, they keep you there. Number 7 was credibility enhancements displays. He called them creds. Credibility enhancement displays. When he first said it, I was like, what the hell is he talking about? But he explained it and I understood exactly what he's talking about. Why would you circumcise your penis? Why did Abraham circumcise his penis? Oh my gosh. That's crazy. Why did Moses have 3,000 people killed with the golden calf and then kill another thousands of people at Mount Horeb because they start getting that Moabite pum pum. Why are these people talking about not having sex until they get married? I mean, you got to resist that good pum pum and ping ping until you get married. And people have done it. And that's a sign of credibility. People wouldn't believe in this religion. How many times have somebody told you that why would the apostles die for something that's false? These great displays, these enhancements, these credibility enhancement displays, that you think they would have died for a lie? I don't know. How many gay people have died because society was bashing and killing them for what they believe of who they are? Why would they have suffered? One is this guy I was training, I didn't know he was gay. And then I found out about 6 months later. And we had a conversation about it. And he said, why would I choose the two classifications that are the most hated? Gay and black, a gay black man. Because so people will do extraordinary things to believe in these religions, to believe in a situation, a government. They would go through extraordinary suffering. People are eating cat food, dog food. People are being kicked out of their homes because they can't pay the rent, because they're going to pay that tithe, because they believe in this religion. I know some of you have met people or know people who paid tithe instead of paying their rent. Have ran out of food because they decided to pay that tithe. Lost their cars to get to work because they was going to pay that tithe. People will go through extraordinary amounts of suffering. And because people do that, and people go through extraordinary amounts of suffering for their beliefs, and because people will do that, other people look at that and say, it must be real. It must be true. It must be. Now, I will admit, I was never that deep into it. Well, I was deep into it, but I had a mindset that said that, hey, I'm going to pay my bills first, and I'm going to pay myself first before I pay somebody, before I pay this church. Because the God I believed in at the time frame wouldn't want me being homeless, wouldn't want my children being homeless, wouldn't want us suffering without food. And I got to pay this car note. Otherwise, if I don't pay the car note, how am I going to go facilitate my company so that I can pay the 10%? See that logic? That you understand what I'm saying? But it keeps people trapped because you see other people. Oh, I sowed an incredible seed, gave the church my whole check, and then I started being a faithful tither, and I got the promotion. My company started growing. Has nothing to do with truth. But when you see people making these big performances, I saw a video where some beach, they show like thousands of people being baptized in the Atlantic Ocean. Oh, that was amazing. Look at all those people. There must be some truth to it if all these people went and did that. So these big displays, just like going and building these wells, and so that you can proselytize to these people about how they're going to go to hell. Big displays. Number 8 was social integration. Now this one is this one's slick. This one is real slick. is when you incorporate your faith into basically how you live in society, right? So I mentioned the circumcision. Circumcision became a normal practice in American society. Not so much in Europe. It kind of was, and then it went away in Europe. Uh, But circumcision in America became just a normal part of the process, just a normal way of living a life in America. A boy is born, you within 8 days, snip snip on the ping ping. It just became the norm. It's socially acceptable. We used to say the Pledge of Allegiance, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. It was a lie, but saying that pledge became a norm, so it's a reinforcement. Presidents calling for national days of prayer, it's a reinforcement. But it's a normal thing. Nobody thinks much about it. It's a normal way. Everybody go to church on Sunday. It's a normal thing. It's just how we live our life. Just part of our social integration. And in some spaces, it is so deeply ingrained, like in Judaism. This is why Judaism has survived. Social integration of Judaism into just a way of life is so prominent that people don't even recognize it or notice it. But then, even if they did, if you walked away from it, because this social integration has become such a part of who you are, it is part of how you identify your your self-worth, your being, your reason for existence, that if you walk away from it, jump you all the way back to number 5. And what was number 5? Threat of ostracism. So when you are a J-Dub and it's a part of your Saturdays, and you're knocking on the doors on other days, and it's just a part of who you are, when you're a part of the Jewish religion, if you ever decide to walk away from it, it's not only it's that ostracism. And more so, you're ostracizing within yourself. You see, they got you so ingrained from you being born into it, and you've been indoctrinated into it, and you've seen these big displays, and you've had these displays done to you, that if you were to walk away from it, well, all your whole societal life is based on it. Your bar mitzvahs, now your bar mitzvah has lost its meaning if you were to do that, and that meant something to you. That was a special day. That was a very special day. So to question it, you would have to question your whole societal life, who you are. So social integration becomes a very big way. Let me give you a business understanding of social integration. When the iPod came out, nobody was clamoring before the iPod saying that, ooh, I need something that holds 1,000 songs. Nobody cared about that. We had our Walkmans, we had our little CD players. Nobody thought about that. You had your little case with all your CDs in it. But they convinced you that you needed that. But then even more so, they showed you commercial after commercial after commercial of socially integrating iPods into your everyday life, until it got to a point where if you didn't have an iPod or some type of MP3 player, society looked at you a little funny. Like if you walked around with, by the time we get to like 2005, 2006, if you walked around with a damn cassette player or a Walkman, what society are you in? You've been ostracized from society. You've been ostracized. People look at you sideways. Oh, shameless plug time. This is why you need to join me for Financially on Fire. Because even though finances have been socially integrated, It is the negative of finances that's been socially integrated. Bad credit. Most people got bad credit. Most people have to take high interest rates. Most people can't get finance for this or that. And so you don't have the money. But everybody also wants good credit, because having good credit puts you in another level of society where then you get ostracized from the other society. These things work in so many different ways. They work in so many different ways. So you should join us for Financially on Fire, so you can join the wealthy. So that social integration part is what keeps it, makes you so connected to it. So if you have any religion, any group, the fear that you have to make whatever it is that you're doing a part of your society, a part of how you flow, how you walk, how you live your life on a daily basis. Because then to turn away from the religion is not because you're turning away from truth, you're turning away from who you are. Who you are. If you watch those pop the balloon little stupid little shows, what do they always, oftentimes you'll have somebody say, I want a woman who's God fearing woman, or I want a God fearing man, because the church is a big part of my life, and I want somebody who's going to be able to share that with me. You can't even date somebody on their character. You can't even date somebody based on their character, because it's been socially integrated into you that somebody has to believe in this Bible, this religion. But yet, Christians get divorced at a higher rate than atheists. Muslims don't have as much of a high divorce rate because it's been socially engineered into their culture that if you do get a divorce, you will be ostracized from the community. And the reason, and multiple reasons why people stayed in bad marriages like your grandparents, is because women would be ostracized from the community if they were divorced. No other woman would want to hang out with them. They didn't want them in their community because they didn't want them messing with their husbands. They also had the financial part that the women would be relegated to poverty. So religion is socially engineered into your life. And why were women in that situation? Because the Bible taught that women were nothing more than baby making machines, that they were just property. That's right. Go get you a mortgage. I got go get you a mortgage so that you don't burn. That's right. Because what we're going to be teaching in Financially on Fire, which is only $10, is to get yourself in a position where you can get a mortgage, because you need to make the place that you live into an investment. Where you live should be a financial investment that gives you wealth. You want to be on the gray side in that 70%. Or if you're in the middle income area, you want to be in that 27%. You don't want to be in that 1%. You don't want to be there. But these things were socially engineered. The religion has been socially engineered and integrated into your society. Now, number 9 is that they discourage criticism. Now, I know earlier he said discourage questioning and critical thinking. That's questioning critical thinking over the information that is provided. But number 9, discouraging criticism, is more about criticizing your leaders, criticizing the organization. Criticizing your leaders and the organization. Hold on, my mortgage went up. Most of the time, your mortgage goes up because your insurance or your taxes went up. Now, if your insurance and taxes went up, sometimes you can't help the tax part. Insurance, sometimes you'll get a kickback payment if they're charging too much. But most of the time, it's because they did the tax assessment raised how much your taxes are going to be. So check your tax documentation that the mortgage company sent you, or request that, and you may be able to determine that's why your mortgage went up. But one of the things I'm going to talk about in Financially on Fire is how to do an amortization schedule so you can skip out on a lot of the interest of your house. Had to throw that one in there. Also, shameless plug, Financially on Fire, June 1st. Sign up today. Link is in the description. Why the divorce rate so high in the U.S.? Because it's been socially engineered into people that they need to hurry up and get married. And you need to get married. That marriage is the goal. The marriage, getting married is the goal, but the marriage itself, the commitment to one another, is not the goal. If you want a lot more information on relationships, I also have a channel called Lorenzo Reed 369. Lorenzo Reed 369. And when I remove your comment, you'll see exactly how to spell my name. But Lorenzo Reed 369. So, how many of y'all been told that you can't question the pastor? That's because the Bible tells you that you don't question the prophets. You don't question the pastor. When you question the pastor, then you're questioning God, is how they relate it to you. So they discourage you from questioning the people who are in charge of the religion. And because of that, people go into that cognitive dissonance again. And you teach them that when they were a child. When you teach children that they can't question adults, that's the first teaching of that. Children don't question adults. Well, that's stupid. A child should be able to ask their adults questions, question some of their thoughts and judgments so that they can come to an understanding of why something is happening. You know, why can't I go to this party? Why can't I play in the streets? You know, why can't I play football in the street on this particular street? You need to be able to question those things and not just do as I say. Children are seen and not heard. But that indoctrination says don't question. You don't question nothing. And so it's pulled over into the church. You don't question the pastor. The adults don't question the pastor. So you not being able to question the pastor, you not being able to use critical thinking, keeps people in the church. Some of these people have went through churches and they see the pastor doing all these crazy things, having relationships outside of their marriage. They are stealing money from the church. They're doing all these different things. And as long as it's not too bad, nobody questions the pastor. They stay with him. Or if the pastor come out, I made a mistake, I'm imperfect just like y'all. But I know God is going to forgive me, and God has already forgiven me. So I'm asking the church to forgive me. And if you can't question your leadership, then that is problematic within itself. Even in the military, we have a way of questioning leadership. We have lawful orders and we have unlawful orders. And if you can demonstrate that the order is an unlawful order, they can't do shit to you. And that's other than prison, that is the closest thing to enslavement is in the military. But even we can question our leadership. But in the church, you can't question that leadership. And you damn sure better not question Jesus. You better not question Paul or Peter or Matthew or Mark or Luke or John. Don't question David and Solomon. Solomon was the wisest man to ever have lived. Yet we are wiser than Solomon today. And there were those before Solomon who was wiser than him. But you better not question it. Don't question Moses. Don't question the fact that they told you that you can have slaves in Leviticus 25. Don't question that. Don't question that in Leviticus 25, 44 through 48, somewhere around there, that you can have chattel slavery. Don't question that. No, we're just going to rework it. But don't you question it. Don't you question those individuals. Because those are the individuals that are keeping you stuck in this religion. Now, number 10, We all know this one. The use of violence. When the Holy Kool-Aid talked about this one, he went into the past and how Christianity and Islam and Judaism, how it grew. None of those religions grew because they were good people, because they were nice to their neighbors. You know, people will read the Bible and say that, oh no, see, God wouldn't do that because God said be good to all your neighbors. Yet all those religions grew through violence. Teaching Jesus grew through violence, through colonization. Teaching Allah grew through violence, through colonization and warfare. They all grew through slavery. There wouldn't be as many Muslims in India if it wasn't for the violence of Islam going to India. Right this day, Israel is murdering Palestinians, genociding them, attempting to. Violence. America is joining on that side. Violence. They want to kill Captain Touré, who's Muslim. Not just for the money, but because he's Muslim and he's trying to be an independent country in Burkina Faso. So America says, let's do violence. Let's get the Ivory Coast to go over there and act violently towards Touré. Violence. If you were born in the Americas and you are a person of color, you came to your religion through violence. Your ancestors came to that religion through violence. If you're Irish or Scottish, it was through violence from the English. If you're English, it was through violence of the Romans. If you're Roman, it was through violence of Emperor Theodosius I. That religion, since 381, has done nothing but commit violence in order to perpetuate itself. And even before 381, the reason why Constantine called for the Council of Nicaea is because Christians were violent towards other Christians throughout the Roman Empire for who's right, who is spreading the Jesus message the right way. And the violence that was happening in the Roman Empire, Constantine sought to end it. Christians have been violent towards one another from the 1st century all the way up to 3rd century, well, to the 4th century. It is through violence. Islam spread because of violence. The caste system that they have in Hinduism was violent. And then not only did that caste system come because of money, but then they used color because being under British rule. But violence has been the thing that has perpetuated this religion. I think the fear of violence is probably one of the reasons why homosexuals who still are trying to be Christians are trying to be Christians, because maybe they won't be violent towards them. The KKK was a Christian organization, is a Christian organization. It has all been through violence. And in today's world, where it may not be hand-to-hand violence, it has become economic violence. Economic violence is the methodology of the day. Oh, you're a Muslim country? We're going to put sanctions on you. Oh, you down in Haiti and you want to practice voodoo? Economic sanctions against you. No protection from police. You can't become part of the government. You can't go to our schools. You can't come to our hospital. Economic violence. Economic violence has been the way to do it in today's world. And there are still cases of just straight up violence. Without this threat of violence, then the threat of ostracism is not there. So we have to have this violence. Right. You're appropriate. The fear of violence or the fear of being outcast. And they go hand in hand. Hand in hand. Oh, I know we're not going to get through this whole thing, right? We might. Number 11 is fundraising. Holy Kool-Aid said that other reason these religions work is because of fundraising. Now, his method that he talked about fundraising really went into the fact of how the fundraising allows for the missionary work to happen. The fundraising allows for them to do the marketing of sending these teenagers out, sending out the J-Dubs knocking on your door. That the fundraising helps to build these buildings. Well, he didn't talk about that, but I am. Well, no, he talked about that with Scientology. But the fundraising allows for these buildings to be built. Y'all know the saying in business, build it and they will come. People love belonging to something big and that looks good. So Scientology build these big ass compounds, make it look good. People like Malachi York build a whole compound down in South Georgia, make it look good. Build all these mosques and temples all over the place, make them look good. The Catholic Church did an amazing job of building these structures that entices people. Well, that can only be done through fundraising. You got to have money to do that. And people want to be where the money is at. People go to these mega churches because of the money. Old smiling ass Joel Osteen. Oh, I'm going to get you the money. Come to my church and just, God wants you to have a blessing. God is in your favor. You want God's favor? Give me that 10%, damn it. If you give that 10%, God is going to bless you in ways that you didn't even know he was going to bless you. Give me that 10%. He ain't going to heal you when you're sick. He ain't going to keep you from dying. He ain't going to get rid of that cancer. He's going to let you become homeless and all that sort of thing. But God's going to bless you in so many ways. He's going to give you peace. Peace in your poverty. Peace in your sickness. Peace when your husband is beating your ass. Peace when your wife is emotionally manipulating you. Gonna give you peace when your kids are just fucking up and going to jail over and over again, getting caught up in drugs and whatever else, gang warfare. He's gonna give you peace as long as you give that 10%. That fundraising. Because when your money is tied to something, you don't want to let it go. I literally met a person who said that they didn't want to walk away from Christianity because they have given thousands upon thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars to the church, and they don't feel like they've gotten their return on the investment. Needless to say, I just walked away from the whole conversation because you're too stupid for me to deal with. But that emotional connection, the emotions of a man and his money is a very strong thing. That is a popular teaching that I've heard before as well. 10% gets you into the covenant. Your blessing is in your giving. This is why they have multiple damn offerings that they ask for. But this is how they do it. Is that fundraising keeps it. As long as they got money to market, money to keep marketing, the religion stays where it can survive. It will. Number 12 was moral adaptability. Now, this is where Islam is about to, in some degree, going fuck around and find out. So if you saw the video that I did Oh shit, that was earlier today. Video I did earlier today. The only reason that you have women in Iran who are converting over to Christianity, it is not because Christianity offers them a truth. There is no truth that Christianity is offering. But the overwhelming majority of countries that are Christian countries have better rights for women than Iran does. And since these women are fighting against the mistreatment of women and fighting for equal rights of women, Christianity seems better to them because Christianity seems to be more in line with today's moral standards. Yet at the same time, Christianity is also embracing the LGBTQ community in many of your cities. In many cities, I've done videos where I was going through Atlanta and they got the flag. The flag is flying. There are whole church organizations for homosexual Christians. Christianity has been molding itself through the changes of society for centuries. For centuries. Christianity teaches that you are to buy, of the foreigners who live amongst you in the foreign nations, you are to buy your male and female slaves and own them as property forever and pass them down to your sons as inheritances of property forever. Yet it is that same religion that Christians try to claim was the spearhead of ending slavery in America. When we know the truth, it was money. Abraham Lincoln did not want the Union to split. The entire Civil War happened because of money, the 2/5 rule, taxation of slaves as well as cotton and other products, but it was the taxation over slavery and the voting of slave owners that created the Civil War. Their desire to maintain their economy in the South and maintain their slaves. But they act like Christianity is what ended slavery. No. But now the Bible, Christians will say that slavery is wrong, and they will use and try to use the Bible to back that up. So if a religion doesn't continue to move forward with the morality of society, that religion dies. This is where Islam is finding itself on the struggle bus. This is where it's finding it, on that struggle bus. This is why Zoroastrianism is losing. In Zoroastrianism, you have to be born into the religion. You cannot be grafted in. So therefore, if you're not born to Zoroastrian parents, you cannot become Zoroastrian. This is why the religion has dwindled from a whole Persian empire down to about 300,000 people, because you have to be born into it. So the moral adaptability is what has kept some of these religions moving forward, continuing to be around. But we can see it still has a long way to go. And by the time 100 years from now, today's Christianity will not be recognizable to Christianity 100 years from now. Canada has already outlawed the parts of the Bible that speaks against homosexuality. So their Bible is different. These continued changes are needed in order to continue the religion, which should tell you that the religion is not based on truth, but it is based on the concepts of man, each century by century by century. But you can't question that. You can't question the pastor about that, because then you might get ostracized. But you also can't do it because you might have your fear of hell. So cognitive dissonance. You go with the flow. You recognize when the church changed its thought processes on certain sects of people, on people of color. At one point, the church used to teach that Black people didn't go to heaven. A great example of that is the Mormon church. The Mormon church used to teach that Black people don't go to heaven. But if the very few that do go through this process, then they get to be servants to the white people in heaven. But then when their 501c3 was threatened by Jimmy Carter, oh, the church changed the program. Oh, white people, now black people can be in the priesthood. Well, now black people can go through this immaculate marriage or whatever marriage process, and they can go off and build their own universities. They changed their entire doctrine on polygamy in order to become a state in 1871, I believe, or 1857, somewhere around in there. They changed their whole thought process on polygamy so they can become a part of the United States. Then they changed their whole thought process on black people because Carter was going to take away their 501c3. So they change it. And number 13 is, what does it all mean? And like I said before, it means that it's not based on truth. Truth does not keep these religions. Truth won't allow for these religions to keep flourishing. It is all those things in different combinations that keeps the religion and allows for it to flourish. Now, like I said, you can use this stuff for marketing, for business. You can see examples of this in how government works. But the fact remains is that whether Jesus existed or not doesn't matter to them. Whether he died or not doesn't matter to them. Whether he was resurrected or not doesn't matter to them. Whether Exodus ever happened or didn't happen, it doesn't matter to them. That fear of being ostracized, that fear of being cast into this lake of fire, none of those things matter. Those are the things that matter. Does it disrupt your social integration of how you live and who you are, the core of your being, and disrupt that? And now, as I get a lot of people ask me the question, if I don't believe in Jesus, what am I supposed to believe in? Because people have this worship gene in them, this worship mentality in them. And I don't think that there's an actual worship gene. You've just been surrounded by people who worship, and worshiping a God is a part of your moral adaptability, your societal integration, that they need something to worship in so that they can validate themselves, to give themselves purpose and meaning. And that's why I say your purpose and meaning is you. Somebody asked me that question today, like, what should I believe in? I told them, yourself. Would you say that technology is going to replace religion as a new faith? Every few generations discard old traditions and begin with new traditions. To a certain degree, technology will. It's kind of like, what was that show? Something in the Gods by Neil Gaiman. I forgot the name of it. Where they were saying the new gods was technology. So, American gods. Thanks, Randall. Technology will to a certain degree, but people won't worship the technology. I think more and more people will start to become agnostics and atheists, as we see that is one of the fastest growing groups in the world, is the nones, the non-affiliated, and the overwhelming majority of the non-affiliated are agnostics and atheists. And so they will find meaning in other things, meaning in life and other things, but they will not worship the technology in the extent that we would say worship, what worship is. But yes, I agree that their old traditions are being demonized and looked and frowned upon. And so quite often what they will find is some other new age religion, like Hyperionism. They will start to follow Morgu. They will start to look at hermetics and alchemy, but in a more scientific format. Which this brings me to our next aspect of it. Now, that's everything that he talked about on the Holy Kool-Aid. So if you want to hear his version of it, find the YouTube page, the Holy Kool-Aid. course, we expounded on everything that he said, but if you want to see his original video, he posted it yesterday on the Holy Kool-Aid. Why Religions Fail is the name of the video. Now, if you wanted to start a religion, you got to incorporate some of those things in your religion. Because honestly, most people are just not going to buy it unless it has that in there. Now, there are other things that you can add that he didn't talk about that would help you if you wanted to start a religion. But you're going to have some of those aspects as part of it. If you think about almost every organization that you've ever belonged to, you can find certain aspects within that. One of the reasons why even those who claim to be elevated in their consciousness, one of the reasons they still hold on to race is because of some of these things. Oh, if I don't hold on to, to the black man and the black woman, then I might get ostracized from the black community. Oh, if I don't hold on to some of these things, then my social integration, because I am defined by the amount of melanin that I have in my skin. Other black people may act violently towards me if I do things that they claim white people do. And if it's not physical violence, it's verbal violence. Some white people still see race because they know they will be ostracized from their community and it might hurt their money. So even those who claim to be of a higher consciousness are still holding on to certain things because of these aspects. They was born into a black family, indoctrinated into blackness, the fear of being ostracized from the black community. They've seen people struggle and fight for rights of being black and for uplifting black people. And it's just part of their society. Yep, that's how you can tell how long I've been on, Randall, by how much cigars left. But there should be a counter in the top left of your screen. We had an hour and 52 minutes. There are plenty of us on social media who deny. But you know what? He brings up a good point. In the black community in America, to deny this God is to put yourself in a position to be ostracized from the community. So much of black culture in America is wrapped up in Christianity and Islam. You see, society may not ostracize, and think about this. If you're a Christian will less ostracize a Muslim than they will a black atheist. If you're a black atheist, they'd rather have a black Muslim next door to them, working with them, engaged in relationship, friendship with them, than a black atheist. Because it just doesn't compute to them. How can a black person be atheist or agnostic? Now, I don't think I will ever claim straight up atheism as much as I will claim agnosticism. Because we don't know all the laws of the universe, I will leave a gap for at some later date possibility of proof. But you're going to have some hella proof. So at this point is when I wrote down some of my own things. There's 12 of them. No, how many are there? Yeah, there's 12 of them. We're going to go through the 12. It's just going to be a little bit longer video. We're going to go through the 12. They don't take as much information. But after I was listening to his video and I meditated on it, I started searching for information and meditating as well on how do you get rid of a religion? How does a religion die? Yep, that's the thought process that people have, Kevin. How can you be black and think this is right? And when I think black people should be the first ones, black Americans should be the first ones to leave Christianity and Islam. You're only blacks in the Americas and in Africa, because you're only those religions because of slavery and colonization. So, Tim's that joker said alien invasion. If the women leave, that's a good one. So what I wrote down, 12 things, and I separate them by, there are 12 things that I wrote down. First, things that are inward, and then things that are outward. And I wrote them down because what I was researching and then what I was meditating on, actually, AI broke them down into categories for me better than I probably would have. So I don't want to take credit for things that I didn't 100% come up with myself. Just like in this video, I told you where those 13 came from. But the first thing is lack of empirical evidence. And what did I write? Oh, lack of empirical evidence and dogmatic thinking. What I do on this channel is that very thing, is demonstrate the lack of empirical evidence and the dogmatic thinking that religions have. And the more and more that type of information get out, for those who want to question, those who want to question the pastor, question the information, this is where it is enough for some of us to be able to walk away from this religion, because we can question it. But the more and more we show that this information can in no form or fashion be correct, that there's no evidence of these characters existing, it allows for us and others to be able to walk away from this religion. And the more and more that comes out of how these religions came about, where they came about, information that they took from other groups, or how they were just doing what other people in their communities were doing, then we can walk away from this religion. This religion can die. Number two that I wrote down was moral ambiguity and contradictions. The Bible is filled with different states of morality that are ambiguous and downright wrong. Slavery, forcing a girl who had been essayed to marry her essayist. Filled with contradictions. Jesus says, turn the other cheek. God said, the Old Testament God said, an eye for an eye. Jesus was born at the time frame of a census, according to Luke. But according to Matthew, he was born at the time frame that Herod was still king. Those two things had at least a 10-year gap. Now, because of that fear of hell and being ostracized, people are going to stay stuck with it. We can show them the information, but they still stay stuck. They still can't get past themselves. They have to believe in this. And we can see people on this chat right now. They have to stay with this religion. They can't let it go. Doesn't matter how much information you demonstrate to them. They're never going to leave it. They don't connect with the immoralities of the Bible because a lot of the immoralities of the Bible are against the laws of the country that they live in. So they don't think about it. The third thing I wrote down, and this is the exclusivity and divisions. These religions, as they continue to, one of the things that's pushed a lot of people away from these religions in today's world is the fact that the exclusivity of Christianity and Islam, the exclusive is happening just like it did with Zoroastrianism, in that it's so exclusive that you can't be a part of it. But the exclusivity also of you have to live this life, you have to be this type of person. You can't be gay and be Christian. You can't have more than one husband or more than one wife and be Christian. You can't divorce women and marry other women and still be Christian. You can't be rich and be Christian. All these exclusive things that they keep propping up continues to create divisions within their own religion. And at some point, all these divisions is going to show just how this religion in itself, with the lack of data, lack of evidence, is just fake. It's just fake. Because those divisions are happening faster now than they used to happen. Back in the day, it took Seventh-day Adventists decades to create their religion. It took Mormons decades to create their religion. Now you can create a division of Christianity or Islam within months. Within months, you can create it. And even the Bible tells you that a house that is divided cannot stand, or that it will fall. And Christianity is divided. Islam is becoming more and more divided. Hinduism is divided. And unless they get rid of their caste system, they're going to fall. So those divisions are going to end this relationship. So honestly, if we wanted to get rid of the religion, we would create more divisions within the religion. Allow them to fight one another. What saved Christianity during the time frame of Constantine was the fact that he ended the division. He tried to end the division, and then Theodosius picked up on it even more so to end that division by saying that everybody has to follow this type of Christianity, and if you didn't, I'm going to kill you. If the threat of death wasn't a part of Theodosius' plan, Christianity would not have become the religion of Rome. But because most countries have a freedom of religion, the divisions are easy to create and have been created. But these Islamic states, they have a tight rein on it, but they're still going to lose because of something that I wrote a little bit later on. Number 4 I wrote was unfulfilled promises and neglect of human agency. They've been promising the end time. Doesn't happen. Every time a Christian claims that this event is happening, that event is happening, this is a sign of the end time, that's a sign of the end time, it creates more and more division. And the more and more they do that, this religion is going to end. No, Tim, we're going to go through all 12, even if I finish this ago. We're going to go through these remaining ones. And their neglect of human agency. We got these people, because of Christianity, we want Roe versus Wade. Because of Christianity, we want the 10 Commandments in every school. Because of Christianity, we want this, we want that. This turns people off of the religion. So the more they take away people's rights, this is why the Pilgrims came to America. This is why the Puritans came to America. because the Anglican Church was taking away their rights to worship the way they wanted to, and they didn't think that the Anglicans were worshiping correctly in the first place. So they left. Well, there's no damn other place to go now. So it's going to continue. The religion will fail because of trying to take away people's rights, and all these false prophecies. People are going to walk away from it. Number 5 that I wrote down was inequality and discrimination. Everywhere these religions go, they create inequality. Everywhere they go, they discriminate. Like I said, in Haiti right now, if you're not Catholic, you can't get health services. But those health services have been changing, and people have been walking away from it. People have went back to they're starting to go back to their orishas in Haiti because they're tired of the discrimination. Ain't got nothing to do with truth, just the discrimination. The MAGAs have alienated even the Christian Republicans. Appreciate that, Rap. Thank you for donating a 3-month membership. And Christianity is creating enemies and divisions within it because so many people in today don't like genocide. And so countries like America is split over Israel and Palestine. And because it is the Christian thing to do to support Israel, people are feeling like Israel is not for them. I mean, that Christianity is not for them because of that. Because how can you still be Christian and support this genocide? It goes against our moral standards of today. So it's not going to work. Number 6 was the potential for misuse and manipulation. I celebrate every time I see a pastor get caught up into some bullshit. Every time I see the Catholic Church get caught up into some bullshit. Now, I don't like the fact that when they mess with children, when they essay people, that kind of thing, I cannot celebrate that at all. Let me be clear. But I celebrate when they find that they have financial mishandlings, when they cheat on their wives, cheat on their husbands, when they're asking for jets and buying jets. It's a celebration because the more they manipulate, they have misuse of the religion and manipulate people, the more people will start to walk away from this religion. So I look forward to them keep changing their doctrine, keep having all these mishaps. It is a beautiful thing. Number 7 was failure to adapt to societal changes. Where the MAGAs were once strong 8 years ago, they have become weaker because of all the racism and the Proud Boys and all these other groups. It has weakened their resolve because the other Christians don't want to be associated with them. The more and more that they fight against, look, homosexuality has always been a part of human societies. It always will be a part of human society. But the more and more they alienate this very powerful group, the better. The better. I love that some of these videos go viral of these pastors who are saying some of the dumbest shit. Like the video I posted the other day about the pastor saying that if a woman, and I'm surprised, and I'm mad at y'all for not sharing the hell out of that video. I expected that video to get a hell of a lot more shares. But when that pastor said that if a woman calls the police when he slaps her down, that that woman is evil, and y'all didn't share the hell out of that video, I was like, this video should have like a share per view. Each view of it should have a share. But if they don't continue to change with social changes, as the social society changes, they will find themselves missing, missing out, losing, becoming smaller. If you were to start a religion today, you would make that religion fit into today's subjective moralities. And that's what people like Mordu creates. And that's why so many people follow him. So number 8, and these are external things that are creating the downfall of religion, and I look forward to even more of these things happening. And this number 1 I wrote down was, so this is number 8, conflict with scientific knowledge. It is one thing to demonstrate, and this is why I do other videos of this nature. It is one thing to demonstrate how the information in the Bible cannot be validated, that there is no data backing it up. It is a whole nother thing to demonstrate how the Bible goes against the laws of science, our scientific knowledge as we know. See, like that lightning and thunder that just hit. Back in the day, they believed that that was God's. That was Thor. If he was in certain parts of Africa, that was Shango causing the lightning and the thunder. Well, we know better. If you watch my video on the condemnation of 1277, of how they wanted the earth to be the center of the universe and that God exists outside of time and space. And I did that video yesterday. But then science has shown that there is no such thing as nothingness. There is no vacuum of space. That the way Christians use the term vacuum is the most non-scientific way of using the term vacuum. Vacuum does not mean an emptiness. It's just a less than perceivable emptiness to create the least amount of drag. That's a vacuum. But there is still matter involved in it. So number 9, so the more and more we demonstrate how the Bible does not connect with science, how the Bible goes opposing to science and what it claims to have happened. There's an impossibility for the sun to have stayed up for an additional 12 hours, that the whole world would have been destroyed, that the flood is an impossibility. This is why I do multiple flood videos, is because I'm demonstrating how scientifically the flood is an impossible thing to have happened. Matter of fact, I learned today, and I'm going to talk about it in the video. I learned today, and I never thought about it. It should be something that you should easily recognize. But anytime it rains, when the water impacts the earth, there is a minute level of heat that is dispersed at every impact. In order for enough rain to fall for 40 days and 40 nights to cover Mount Everest by 18 feet, the amount of heat generated by that much rain would have caused the earth to boil. The water would have been boiling. Yes. The webinar that I did last month on the flood was enough scientific information and enough to show how the story was borrowed and stolen. But I wish I had already thought about the fact that the waters would have been boiling. And there's a lot more things that I found out about it. And I'm going to cover that on another video. That's just a funny statement right there. If God created time, he would need time to do it. I like that one. Exactly. All life, what's she saying? All life would have been fried chicken. Exactly. So the Bible and none of these older books actually can sustain itself based on scientific knowledge that we have today. So the fact that any mature adult still believes in this Bible just shows their level of cognitive dissonance. So number 9, the rise of secularism and alternative worldviews. I think Raph brought it up earlier about technology. You see, 100 years ago, and hell, less than 100 years ago, 50 years ago, and for me, 46 years ago, my methodology of starting my deconstruction process started with going to the library. The library is where you would go to get your worldviews, your difference of information. But most people didn't go to the library. The old saying, if you want to hide some information from people, put it in a book. Well, now people don't need a book. I told you guys before, I haven't read a book, a whole book, in a decade or two. Not two, but definitely a decade. The internet has allowed for us to see and learn and understand easier and faster than when I was 9 years old. When I was 9 years old, to learn the scientific things that I've learned would have been improbable. But what you can learn now, the societies that you can see now you couldn't see back then. But now that people have access to see that the most successful countries with the best healthcare, with the best work-life balance, with the best economies, the best quality of life are secular countries like Denmark and Sweden. And when you can see that, and now you can move to that, you can go live there. People are saying, no, we don't need this God to have a comfortable life. We don't need this God to be economically stable. We don't need this God to have better health care. I can just move to this country where I know they already got better health care. I can move to this country where they got longer lifespans. I can move to this country where my dollar goes further than it goes in America. So we have access to information that we don't have now, that we didn't have 30 years ago. And because of that, this religion is dying. This is the reason why the nuns and the agnostics and the atheists are growing so fast, is because we can go and read the archaeological reports. We can go and read the PhD papers. But even better than that is we have YouTube and other video channels that allows you to be able to gain this information in a 20-minute video. You can gain a whole book worth of knowledge in a 20-minute video. And that makes it so much easier. Dwayne brought up the webinar that I did last month on the flood. And in that 3 hours, had information in it that took me months of reading when before the internet. Months of reading. And people aren't going to spend months of reading like that. And then when you read something over months of time, you got the learning curve and the forgetting curve. You forget stuff that you read in the first month. But they got it all in 3 hours. 3 months of book work they got in 3 hours. When we do this Financially on Fire seminar, that book, the DIY book, took 4 months to write. To gather the information, to put everything in there, it took 4 months to put that together. you'll get it in two or 3 hours. 2 or 3 hours. That's it. So to be able to have this technology around us and this to know what the world is doing and what the world is thinking and be able to gain these alternative views, it's destroying religions. Number 10 that I wrote down, see, I told you we're going to get through this whole thing, is the negative experience and religious trauma that people are experiencing. This is why I say I celebrate when the church does wrong. Because every time the church does wrong, it takes away that thing of discouraging people from critically thinking. I know a lot of Christians try to use it as reverse psychology. Oh, the only reason you left is because the church hurt, because the church hurt. What they fail to realize is that the church hurt opened the person up to being able to critically think and to be able to look at the data that the church has, that the religion has been given, and recognize that there is no relationship with Jesus because Jesus didn't exist. The biblical Jesus never existed. So then how can I have a relationship with a being that never existed? That's a whole conversation in itself of how people process religious trauma into critical thinking to walk away from the church. Why didn't God protect me from being molested? Oh, because that God don't exist. That's why he didn't. Which God? None of the gods. All of them. No God has ever protected a child who was SAE. No God has ever protected someone who was murdered. No God has ever protected someone who was stolen from. No God has ever protected. It has always been the will of other people. It has always been cause and effect. And when you walk away from these religions, you recognize cause and effect. And that's what people have done when they have the negative experiences. When you give money to a church, 10 years you've been giving money to this church. And then when you find yourself in a state where you need the church's help, and the church tells you no. Oh, well, that was the church. It was just a bad church, just bad people. Yeah, but if you went down the street to another church, they're going to tell you, well, you haven't been going to this church. You're not a member of this church. We can't help you. You haven't been paying tithes to this church. You've been paying tithes to the wrong church. But the Holy Spirit led me to that church. Or at least that's what you thought. And then you start to realize there's no Holy Spirit. There's just my spirit. There's no Holy Spirit. There's other people's spirit. There's no devil. It's just the devil that's inside of me and the devil inside of everybody else. There's no devil. These things are made up. Creations of man to scapegoat for their own behavior. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. And like Dwayne said, especially when these guys know that these things are going to happen. All them Palestinians over there praying to Allah, he ain't stopped not one missile, not one bomb, not one. Did he ever stop? If Allah was real, he would stop all the bombs. But Allah ain't stopped the damn thing. So it's all dying. Number 11 is the increase in exposure to diverse perspectives. As social media continues to grow and be a part of our lives and in different formats, at some point, we'll be doing holograms and we'll be talking to each other through holograms. But as more and more information comes out, as more and more sites are dug up, and people have opportunities to get to that information, people will find out more about Göbekli Tepe and Taran Tepe. As we learn more about the Younger Dryas, freeze and flood, people will have to question, well, the Bible is saying that the world is only 6,000 years old. Well, that doesn't fit. But the Bible is saying that civilization was built out of Noah and his children. Well, Noah's children, that doesn't fit. As we continue to understand the genome, that Noah shit don't work. The Adam and Eve stuff don't work. So as we get exposed to more and more information, and it's a beautiful thing, because when YouTube and Facebook and all these things first started and they started doing videos, it was mostly just regular people. But now you got scientists with pages. Now you got professors in circular universities with pages. So now you have exposure to information that you didn't have before. If you wanted to learn something from a professor of religious studies at Princeton or Yale or Oxford, now they have channels where they post their class lectures or parts of their class lectures. Now for the school, this is marketing, but for the regular people, this is exposure to information that they would not have had 20 years ago, 30 years ago. So as more and more of this information come out, the religion dies. And the last thing that I wrote was changing social and cultural norms will upend these religions. The best example of in the modern day that I recognized is COVID. Do you guys know of a major event that happened post-COVID? You probably have recognized it, just didn't think about it. Let me give you a minute to think about it, see if you're thinking on the same lines that I was thinking. But post-COVID, what damaged the churches? What hurt religion during COVID and post-COVID? I'm waiting. I'm waiting. Nope, Twin Towers, that was way, way before COVID. What happened? COVID, 2019, 2020. What happened after COVID? Well, it started during COVID and after COVID that damaged religions. Membership drop. Thank you, Meredith. Merritt. Sorry, Merritt. Churches experience some of the greatest drops in memberships that they ever have in the last 50 years during COVID. They couldn't go to church. Hey, Merritt, hold on, slow your roll, Merritt. They couldn't go to church. And so they started watching videos. Now, at first, there was all, churches were doing streaming and online streaming, and they were having ways that you can pay your tithes, But people stopped. They stopped going. And they stopped paying that money. And you saw a lot of churches, especially the smaller churches, a lot of them have shut down. Properties are up for sale. But then because of their search patterns, because of the way Google works, because of the way YouTube and Facebook and TikTok works, because TikTok became huge during COVID, they started hearing information about metaphysics. All of a sudden, Christians start running around talking about, I gotta sage this, I gotta sage that. They start buying crystals. They start doing all these things that were opposing to Christianity. They started doing yoga. Yoga has never had an explosion like it had during COVID. People couldn't go to the gym. So for exercise, they would do yoga. Shit, I was doing yoga. I mean, I was doing yoga beforehand, but I started doing yoga like every day during COVID. Get up in the morning, I go downstairs, I put on a yoga video, do some yoga. Hell, this sounds so wrong. I wish there was another shutdown of some sort, because there's some channels that I would create. There's some channels I create because there were some business opportunities with that shit. But the metaphysical industry grew tremendously. The Eastern religions grew because of COVID. God wasn't protecting you from COVID. Everybody was getting it. People were dying. They started seeing how man toxicity was affecting nature. The lake that was in my neighborhood at the time frame, you didn't know how much trash was in the bottom of the damn lake because beforehand you couldn't see in the damn lake. All of a sudden, COVID, the lake got clear as hell, and you can see all that bullshit that was in there. We saw how much damage we're doing to ourselves. So people start getting metaphysical. People start looking at how they can heal themselves through natural products. I was so damn mad. I used to easily go to the store and shit, what is that product that I used to get? Oh, it just fell out my head. There was a product that I was using. All of a sudden I go there, I can't even find it. Can't find it no more because everybody was getting it. Couldn't get it. And you know, do not have an image of me in some yoga pants, Sean. I was wearing some shorts like a man, like I should. Oh man, what is that damn elderberry? I had started taking elderberry back in 2009, and hardly anybody was taking elderberry back then. Goddamn COVID hit, everybody want to take elderberry because they not saw some YouTube videos, they not saw some Facebook posts, some Facebook videos. Then I saw people on YouTube TikTok talking about elderberry. All of a sudden you couldn't get it. But then every goddamn company in the world started making it. People started having access to more information. And then social norms started changing. The social norm wasn't to go to church no more. The social norm was to watch it on television, watch it online. And then because you don't have that, see, one of the ways of getting money out of people is to have them all together, seeing that plate go around, watching everybody else put money in that plate, which kind of forces you to go along with the crowd because you don't want to be the one not putting money in the plate. And then people weren't donating to the church. It changed the social norm of donations. Money started going down. And because of their searches, the pastor was talking about the flood today. He had it titled on the video. Well, that title caused them to see my video about the flood is fake, or other people's video about the flood being fake, not being real, never happened. And all of a sudden they start watching that video. Post COVID, I had a bunch of people, got a flash flood warning. I had a bunch of people who told me that they started watching me during COVID and after COVID. And it was watching my videos during that time frame that started them questioning the church and they have walked away from the church. Now that was happening with my little old channel back then, and still little today. The channel's still small. That's you guys' fault that it's still small because y'all not sharing the goddamn video. But if that was happening with my small channel, what was happening to the bigger channels? What was happening to the bigger channel? And then, yes, Robert, channels like Hyperionism grew tremendously. Channels where people were talking about, the Anunnaki, Hey, y'all know ain't nobody talking about no damn Anunnaki prior to COVID. Prior to COVID, most people had never heard of the Anunnaki. That information's always been there. Most people ain't never heard of that shit. COVID opened up the information. Our norms changed. We started watching videos all the time. The reason why we got all these digital nomads today is because people started watching videos after COVID. All those esoteric teachings started becoming available to people. And so the norm of how they function changed, how they thought changed. And all these new things started. All these new things started, which has been killing the church. Christians start talking about chakras, start talking about frequency and vibration. Yeah, what's funny is that in 2012, I did a video where I was talking about if pastors don't start, and nobody watched it, but if pastors don't start talking about energy and frequency and vibration, that they were going to lose their people. Hell, I could have called myself a prophet, because I'd be damned if you don't see pastors starting to talk about it, especially after COVID, and they lost so many of their members who was talking about it. And now they're talking about energy. They're talking about what kind of energy. Like Rap said, they start burning incense and reading tarot cards, still talking about Jesus. Tim is saying that's when he heard about the Anunnaki. And this is what's funny. New Age information has been around, it's before the 60s. Think about it. The same New Age information that they were talking about in the 60s is what Madame Blavatsky, Aleister Crowley, that people like that was talking about long before then. So they still, the cultural norms change. People start living differently. And the more and more we do that, and then there's the laws. As the cultural norm changes for how laws are practiced in different countries, and people will start to walk away from this religion, since religions are slower to change than the laws are. They're slower to change. We've had anti-racism laws, anti-discrimination laws. That just covers all of it. Gender, race, sexuality. We've had anti-discrimination laws on the books for a long ass time, since 1969. But the church hasn't caught up yet. The church is still holding on to that. But like I said earlier, MAGA started out strong, but they've been losing because it's not keeping up with, it goes against social norms. It goes against social norms. And as the world is becoming a much smaller place, we're still going to continue to see that. Yeah. Before COVID, most people never heard of Zechariah Sitchin before COVID. Most people never did. And then they didn't start attacking him until after COVID, even though his books was out long before COVID. So amazingly, we did get through all my points. Like I said, the first 13 was from the first 13 were from the video done by the Holy Kool-Aid. The last 12 were from my own research of how we can get past it, how we can continue to wreak havoc on the church, and why the church is going to lose. Even though those first 13 things tell you how the church maintains itself, how it survives, those last 12 things are happening today. They've been happening, and people are going to, and that's why people have been walking away from it. That's why the churches are actually losing. The churches are desperate. Religion is desperate right now. they are desperately trying to hold on to their numbers. The only way that they're truly holding on to their numbers is by birth rates. We did a live a couple of weeks ago where I showed you a chart that demonstrated. I wonder if I still got that chart. Let's see if I still got that chart. But there was a chart that I brought up, and that chart demonstrated that for every person that these individual religions gain, how many people they are losing. And it was a comparative stat based on different countries. I can barely see what the heck some of these images are. Hell, I can't tell what that is. Where is that chart? I didn't know I was going to say that tonight. Otherwise, I would have already had this chart ready to go. I don't delete the charts or anything. I can't be that far down. I don't know if this is one of those charts, so if it pops up and it's not it, let me see what this is. Nope, that's not it. I don't know what that is. Anyway, there was a chart that I had, and that chart demonstrated the fact that and it showed how in certain countries that for every one Christian that converts over, every one person that converts over to Christianity, they lose 6. Other countries like America, for every person that converts over to Christianity, they lose 3. And that is not sustainable, because when you look at birth rates in countries like America, it's out. But then it then takes a deficit, because after a certain amount of time, people in that country, people with a balanced birth rate, they start to lose people. Well, that's just a list of the largest number of atheists. But look at that, 70% in Hong Kong, 66% in the Netherlands, 66% in the UK. Israel has 65%. Now, they won't talk about how Israel got 65% atheists or non-religious. But that type of growth, they can't sustain that even with their birth rates. And if that chart was right there, then the other one should be close by it. So where did I just find that chart at? I don't even know what this chart is. Nope. Oh, sorry. That chart's for a marketing. This is getting on my nerve. I see. Yeah, they got more atheists, but they got less crime. Exactly. They got less crime. They got less bullshit going on in their countries. They have higher qualities of life. I ain't gonna lie. I'm on what? What's the thing? TikTok, and I see some of the things that they got in China, and I'm like, well, shit. Why we ain't got that? We need some of that. Some of that technology they got. Their quality of life is on point with a lot of the stuff that they have. Hell, I don't know where this chart is at. I pulled down so many charts for other projects that I'm working on, and that I have no idea. It couldn't have been that long ago that I did it, but maybe it is. Yeah, I think it was. Oh well, I can't find it. Okay. But anyway, so before I go, once again, this Sunday we are having a seminar, Financially on Fire webinar. It is $10. The description in the description you'll find the link so that you can join this seminar. If you are tired of being broke and not having wealth, if you're tired of being, you might make in the middle 40%, but you only may have 27% of the wealth, and you want to join that wealthier groups, which doesn't mean that you're making more and more money, then you need to join this seminar. If you need to fix your credit, you want your credit to be better, you need to join this seminar. And as a part of it, you'll get my DIY guide so that you can continue the process that I'm going to teach you of how to get yourself in the right financial position so that you can build wealth. Because the church is not going to teach you how to build wealth. But for all of us who have walked away from this church, from the church and the religion, if we want other people to look at us and say, oh, you know what? They got something going on over there. If this is our credibility enhancement displays, is that when we are doing better financially, we are doing better health-wise, because a health seminar will be another webinar that I'll do as well. When we are doing better in our health and our wealth, and we're doing better with our relationships, not just romantic relationship, but also our personal, any and all other types of relationships, that is what makes people feel comfortable to join our group, to find that tribe. They've been questioning, but they're that fear of being ostracized, that fear of being criticized, and that loss of their societal norms and what has defined them. When they know they can walk away from it and redefine themselves as to who they are. And one of the examples of redefining yourself is to redefine your finances and your wealth. Because with wealth, if you're still living in America, comes health. That is beyond a shadow of a doubt. Poor people die from issues that rich people don't die from. 9 times out of 10. A rich person has a higher probability of surviving cancer than a poor person. We know that shit to be true, true, true. So join me June 1st, 12 p.m. Central Standard Time. That's 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Even if you can't make it, you'll still have access to be able to watch the video later. If you and you'll still receive the DIY guide, but it's only $10. So I look forward to seeing all of you guys there. Matter of fact, there's 47 people on here. I expect to see 47 new people on there, even though some of y'all who are on this right now have already signed up for it. So I look forward to it. You guys have been great. I didn't think we would get through all 25 points tonight, but we did because I went way over time, but that's all right. And as Kevin said, knowledge is power. And I hope that tonight you guys gained a lot more knowledge on how these churches are functioning. Now, when you're having a conversation with someone, a debatable conversation, if you think about these 25 things that we talked about tonight, they will allow you to stand on your ground a hell of a lot better if you conceptualize how these things can be used within a conversation. So when somebody is saying to you that, you know, these people died for this religion, and would they have died if it was not true? Where those people also, there's no empirical data that demonstrates that those people actually existed. That this information is something that has been written down by somebody who was not an eyewitness to any of the information of what had happened. Also, if those people were believing in that religion of something that they did not witness themselves, they had developed a fear of hell. And that fear of hell would keep you and cause you to martyr yourself for that religion. It'll also allow for you to cut off the skin of your ping ping. It'll cause you to go to these big baptisms or do any of these types of things in order to validate your religion. And the use of violence within that, in the scope of all those things, encourage people to stay within that religion. The Muslims threatened to murder your children or murder you if you didn't convert over to Islam. The colonists, the colonizers came in and threatened you with physical harm or threatened your family with physical harm if you didn't convert over to their religion. And in today's world, they threaten you with economic harm. So someone martyring themselves or having these great displays for this religion has nothing to do with truth of the religion. So it gives you, if you think about it in those terms, it gives you more strength to be able to talk to these people, but it also gives you more strength within yourself. The fact that you can now look within yourself and say, well, you know what, the reason why I stayed so stuck in that religion is because I was born into it, or I was surrounded by it in my community. It became a part of our social integration of how we lived. But I see that all of that is false because the idea of hell in itself is false. And since the idea of hell is false, then I have no reason to stay with this religion because there is no threat. And then if my family doesn't like it, if my wife doesn't like it, if my husband doesn't like it, then I know that there's a group of people that will like me for who I am, except for Trauma, except for Tim, except for Wrath, except for Sean. But there are people who are going to like me no matter what, because they're looking at me as a person, not saying that looking at me because of what I believe or don't believe. So we find our own society, our own group, our own culture. You have a tribe. We are social creatures. Some more social than others, but we are social creatures. So it gives you that strength to be able to continue to walk away from these religions. So I hope that this has been, well, I know that this has been helpful, and I look forward to our next conversation. Now, oh, and I said this before, most of you guys got on here tonight. Tomorrow night, my wife and I have a business meeting that we have to go to because we're working on some stuff, and we have to go meet with someone from out of town tomorrow. So we are going, so there will not be a show tomorrow, basically, is what I'm getting at. I will post videos tomorrow, but there will not be a show because we have a business arrangement that we have to go and take care of. So I look forward to seeing you guys on Wednesday on live at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'll see you guys on Wednesday. So y'all have a great night, and always remember, you have to free yourself to be yourself because your greatness is non-negotiable. Good journey, good vibrations.